John Reed. I've got a couple of core controlling 2015 team members with me, Alice and Mark, and we're going to talk a little bit about questions that we've been getting about the conference that you might not be able to easily get answered, or maybe you can't find them on our website, so here we are. So I'm John Reed. I'm going to introduce team members here, Alice Adams and Mark Downs. Alice, why don't you say hello?
Hi, everyone. This is Alice. I'm the Conference Director for Controlling 2015, and I'm your best resource when it comes to questions about conference sessions and conference speakers.
And Mark?
Yes, this is Mark Downs, and I'm the Sales Manager for Controlling 2015, and I'm the person you would come to regarding registering. Registering.
Is that a verb, registering?
Yeah.
The act of registering for the conference, yes.
Yeah, and also group sales, so I can definitely help you on that side.
Okay, great. Should I show a slide of the team members here? This is the entire team of the core. You'll see a few additional team members present on the ground, but this is the people that meet just about every week to plan this show for you, including our founder, John Jordan. So we have a pretty informal question-answer session planned today, so I'd encourage you to go ahead and just start typing questions into the chat, anything you want to know about the conference. What we found is that on our webinars, we cover more of the controlling content itself, so we really don't have a chance to do something that really focuses on the conference. That's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to have Alice go ahead and show us kind of an overview of the conference and make a few comments, and then hopefully while she's doing that, you can be asking any questions that you want to make sure that we cover during the session today. So Alice, tell us about the show.
Sure, my pleasure. So on a high level, the basics, the conference will take place September 21st through 24th, and the way those dates are structured, September 21st are pre-conference sessions. So on that day, we have one session running at a time, and those are really intended to be deep dive and introductory sessions. So, you know, we're starting off with a whiteboard session that looks at the flow of information in financials and controlling. So it's really intended for anyone, no matter their amount of experience, but it's really a fundamental session before the conference really kicks off on the 22nd. So that's what the pre-conference day looks like. 22nd and 23rd are what I would call our more traditional conference days. So on those days, we kick off with a keynote or a plenary session. We have 3 to 4 sessions running simultaneously. On the 23rd, we'll also have our SAP lab running. And then on the 24th is our post-conference workshop. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that once we have some questions on that topic. The conference takes place in San Diego. It's at the Westin Hotel, which is on Broadway. If you haven't been there before, it's a really great location for a conference. Bright, sunny, a beautiful atrium. You won't be locked away in a ballroom for 4 days. And in terms of the hot topics and what the conference covers, it's really the topics that are of key importance to controlling professionals. So we have tracks on overhead accounting and product costing, reporting. Some of the topics that I'm sure you've been hearing a lot about will be covered, for example, SAP HANA, as well as Simple Finance, and as well as topics that are just hard to find information on, like Material Ledger and COPA. Those are topics that we cover in depth at the conference.
Great. And actually, we do have a question that you alluded to a little bit. I have a question here. I have 5 years of SAP Controlling experience. I have a team member I'm thinking of bringing along who has 1 year of controlling experience. Is the conference a fit for both of us? What would you say to that?
Definitely. And there's really something for everyone at the conference, and we tend to see a wide variety of experience levels. If you have a less experienced team member or someone who may be a little rusty on the basics, I would highly recommend attending the pre-conference session. That's a really good way to get up to speed before the conference kicks off. And then I would recommend going through the agenda and picking sessions that either topics you'd like to learn more about for your own personal interest and training, or that are of key importance to your company. For example, if you are launching a HANA project, you may definitely want to attend those sessions. But it's really a conference where there's something for everyone, and you can adjust according to your experience level.
And we have another question I see around the post-conference. It's kind of a long question, but I can summarize by saying that the person is trying to decide whether to stay the extra day or not, which can be, I know, an issue. I'm reading between the lines and thinking they probably are trying to decide whether they should go to the beach that day or go to a session, which is totally valid when it comes to San Diego. But what are your thoughts on the post-conference day?
Sure. Well, the best part is you could go to the post-conference and the beach, because the post-conference will be open over at 1 in the afternoon, and then you can head off to see the beach. So the post-conference session, let me tell you a little bit more about what this session looks like and why we have it. So after the first controlling conference, this is our 4th year, we discovered that people really enjoyed the networking aspect, and they just wanted to sit together and be able to go through topics of their choosing. What the guide decided is, okay, we'll have a post-conference session. People can decide to attend or not. And the way we structure the session is we start off in the morning, first thing, by setting the agenda. And we go through an activity to do this where we rank topics that people would like to cover. Based on that, we set a schedule for the day. So for example, in the first session, we're going to talk about material ledger. In the next one, we're going to talk about planning. And the last one, we'll talk about SAP Simple Finance. So each year, the agenda has been different, and we really strive to make sure that everyone's needs are met. But the goal is that you don't leave the conference with any questions unanswered. And I think that we've been very successful in doing that. And I can tell you from year to year, it looks very different. For example, the year before last, we had someone from John Deere jump up and open their system and show us a little bit more about how they handled costing. We had Janet Salmon share a little bit more of the specifics around enhancement packs. And last year we dove into a lot of customer examples around enhancement packs as well. So, it can range from a presentation to a discussion, and we really encourage people to come prepared to ask questions, to present if they feel so inclined. We have Wi-Fi. They can feel free to open up their system and share specific challenges or solutions that they've found. So that's a little bit about the post-conference day and what it looks like. It's really for the attendees to get their questions answered and make sure that they go home having addressed what they came to the conference for.
Yeah, and I've certainly, as being part of the planning for that, I certainly found that in many of the shows that I attend, that's one of the biggest issues, is that you find yourself on the plane on the way home and you realize that the sessions weren't quite what you were expecting, and your company's invested a lot of money and time in going, and so it's kind of neat to have a day where you can make sure to get those issues addressed. So encourage those who are listening to consider that extra day, because I think it's a really fun day and something you can't get at every show you might go to. So before we get to our main frequently asked questions about the conference, I want to ask you, Mark, a lot of times by the time someone gets to you, they've gotten some of their questions about the SAP side of the show answered by Alice. But what kinds of questions do you get?
Well, I actually tend to get a few more questions about conference location, conference shuttles, room rates at the Westin, and we do have a discounted room rate for conference attendees at the Westin. We also, if flying into the San Diego airport, we do have a free shuttle. If you're staying at the Westin, they offer a free shuttle that will pick you up from the airport and take you right to the hotel. Again, the room rates are a discounted room rate from the normal Westin Inn rates. Also get a few questions occasionally in regard to the CPE. We do offer CPE credits at the conference. Right now, I think we have a total of 21 credits offered for the entire conference. So those are just a few of the questions I tend to get. So
if I want to bring 5 people and I'm looking for a group rate discount, then you're my guy.
I can help you with. We have discounted rates. We have a 5% discount for groups of 4 to 6 attendees, and then we offer a 10% discount for any groups 7 plus. So we can save you some additional money if you have a group coming. So
cool.
And I think if I can jump in, it's very common to see groups come to the conference. I'd say that's actually more the norm than not. So for example, a lot of companies will bring a business user, a technical user, someone from the managerial level as well. So we tend to see teams pretty frequently at the conference.
Yeah, and I would simply add that from my side, spending a lot of time blogging about the SAP market and the challenges customers are facing, I think controlling professionals are right in the middle of that. And what I like about the conference is that you can get your practical controlling questions answered, but you can also learn quite a bit about the direction of SAP HANA. With S4 HANA, which is SAP's sort of product of the future, they are saying is really the most important release in 23 years. The finance piece is really at the core of the changes SAP is making, and we will have some people on site from SAP and from the consulting community that know quite a lot about how this stuff works, not just in theory, but on projects, and I think it's really a valuable chance to get insight on that, which you can bring back to your company and look a little bit like a rock star and help your company understand the changes that are coming and how best to plan for them. So with that in mind, shall we take a look at the most popular questions? So this is the money shot. This is the big slide that shows you these are the most common questions that we typically get. So a couple of them have already been asked today. Alice, are there any that are popping out that we haven't addressed yet that you'd like to cover?
Sure. We haven't specifically covered who will be there. So there's a couple different ways to think about this question. I mean, one is, geography. The majority of our attendees are from the U.S. and Canada. We do have quite a few attendees from Europe as well as Northern Africa as well. So it's definitely becoming increasingly an international group. And we tend to see a mix in terms of users. So we have primarily business super users, dealing with master data, transaction, and configuration, as well as reporting. And we have a number of, managers and individuals on the technical and application side as well. And I guess that kind of dovetails into the next question, how many attendees do you usually have? This year we're expecting around 200 attendees, and once we add in all of our speakers and exhibitors, we'll have close to 250 people there. So lots of new faces to get to know.
The other question that comes up a lot, which actually may be on our next slide, but I wanted to mention it because I hear from people a lot on this topic, is the challenge of sort of justifying the cost investment of a conference, because obviously there's a lot of things you can do with educational and training funding. What kinds of feedback do you get, Alice, on putting together an approval for the conference?
Sure. I mean, we hear about this a lot. I know it's, something that most people have to do to get approval. Before I maybe share a few tips, I just want to add that you can always reach out to Mark or myself, and we're happy to help you put together a proposal. We've done that frequently. For example, if your company is working on a particular, say, a material ledger project, we can help you identify the sessions that you definitely don't want to miss, as well as a list of experts that you'll want to talk to about material ledger. So we're always available for that. I mean, I
And does
think
that
that's
actually, Alice, does that actually work? I mean, if you work with someone on that and they put it together, have you seen people get approvals for that?
yes, yeah, most of the time,
Oh, cool.
yes. So I think it's really a matter of tailoring the information. So you don't want to, of course, you want to share the basics about the conference, but you really want to take specific information that is unique to your company and figure out how you can apply it. And I think the other thing that's really a draw for managers in terms of approving conferences is that you can offer to train other team members when you get back and share information. I've heard of a lot of companies setting up special, lunch and learn sessions after the conference. Participants also have access to all the presentations. So you won't just walk away and forget all the information. You'll have access to all the information from the conference. And John, you were talking a little bit about, HANA and Simple Finance, and as a lot of companies are already starting on those projects, they're really starting to think about them. This is really a good way to think about those investments and how they specifically could impact your team and how you may be able to help leverage that investment. If you're interested in more information, you can send me a note. I also have a blog post on this with a sample proposal that you can use to kind of get started. And I'd be happy to share that link.
And Mark, I wanted to ask you one quick thing. Since your first time was 2 years ago, right? Was your first conference?
That's correct, yeah.
So a lot of times I think if you've never been to a show before, you wonder like how welcoming it will be and will you feel comfortable the first time? What was it like for you your first year?
Well, seeing that I hadn't been to a conference in a few years, it was actually good to get out and meet people, and I try to shake hands and talk to everyone that is at the conference. And since I have a tendency to work with a lot of people through registrations, it's always nice to obviously meet people at the conference and put a face with the name and who you've been talking to on the phone. So I really enjoy getting out there and meeting the folks and people who have registered and that I've talked to. So it's a great it's really a great opportunity to network and meet people as well with other companies.
You had no problem meeting people the first time?
I did not. No, not at all.
All right. Well, I'm going to move on to our next slide then. We don't have a lot of slides in our deck here, so we're getting near the end. But okay, so I think we've covered a little bit of this already. But Alice, in terms of what makes Controlling 2015 unique, are there any things we haven't covered?
We've definitely covered a few of them. We've already talked about SAP developments. It's a good place to get information on that, so I won't really talk more about that. I think one thing that really comes to mind that you guys had sort of addressed in your question to Mark is the networking. And this happens both formally and informally at the conference. But this is a really community-oriented conference, and people are outgoing and they're warm. And I think that you'll find it's easy to get to know people and ask questions. So I can give a few examples of the types of networking opportunities that we offer. We have a couple of panels where you'll be able to ask questions to the panelists. We have something called expert-led networking. So we've picked several topics, for example, COPA and material ledger. Enhancement packs is another one. And basically we've asked the facilitator, who's one of the conference speakers, to organize a networking session around that topic. So it's really their goal to facilitate, and the attendees are really there to ask their questions and to share their expertise. So I highly recommend that you attend those. We've had great reviews of those in the past. We also do networking during lunch, for example, through industry or topic area. We have social events like receptions and a tour as well on the second evening. So I'd really encourage attendees to take advantage of those. You just never know who you'll meet and who's dealing with similar challenges that you are, or who may be able to offer a helping hand. So I think that's something that really makes the conference unique.
Yeah, I think one interesting thing. Sorry to interrupt you, Alice. I think one interesting thing for me was when I came the first year, I don't think any of us knew like what it would be like to get a bunch of SAP controlling experts in the same room, like what would actually happen. And what I was struck by from the beginning is that people sort of had an instant sort of liking to each other and were quickly sharing issues and tips, and in some ways it was hard to get people to stop talking. So that was good. I mean, it was just cool to see that if you do go to this show that there's a sort of natural community that sort of starts to develop pretty quickly.
Exactly, and I think there's a lot of people who have attended every year, and then of course we have lots of new attendees every year, and the community has been quick to embrace them.
Yeah, and that's one of the good things that we have a chance to do is every year to try to make this even better by taking the feedback of attendees and really pushing that into everything we do, which I know you've really focused on. So basically everything you see here is the result of the feedback that we've gotten so far.
Definitely, and really one piece of feedback that we received last year that is also something that makes the conference unique is we have a lab this year. We've had a lot of requests to actually get hands-on experience with some of the newer SAP technologies like Simple Finance. So we're very fortunate that SAP is sponsoring that lab this year, and we'll be providing more information as we get closer to the conference, but basically we'll have a room set up with several SAP employees who are there to work in the lab and to let people have some hands-on experience with those newer pieces of technology.
Yeah, the other thing I like about our conference is that there's a whole lot of customer case studies and presentations. I know some feedback I've gotten from some shows is that, oh, there were too many sales pitches, and there were too many pitches from consultants, and we don't really get that type of complaint. We've had some complaints here or there about different things, but we don't really get that one, do we?
No. In fact, I think that we do a really great job. So we have a lot of SAP customers who are presenting. The majority of our attendees are customers, so typically about 98 to 99% are customers, and the remaining 1 to 2% are SAP employees and consultants. So this is a really customer-heavy and focused conference. And that being said as well, we have a lot of great exhibitors and sponsors who are supporting the event, and we've really taken care to focus on products and services that we believe are of interest specifically to the controlling community. So I think that that really adds a lot of value to the conference as well.
Yeah, I think so, because the consultants that do come have a lot to offer, I think you'd agree, in terms of their unique views on the projects they've been at. And then when you're walking through our exhibitors, these folks are really easy to talk to and very informal, and there are a lot of third-party solutions that are worth taking a look at in the controlling space. So in my opinion, we have a pretty good balance there where you can really get your customer-focused case studies, but if you want to learn more about some of the solutions that can, take away certain pain points from your project, there are a few there. Are there any, in terms of third-party solutions, we have a lot of good ones. Are there an example or two that you want to mention that are kind of going to be there this year and stuff?
Sure. Well, we have 3C software back again this year. They're sponsoring, and that's, in fact, we have a lot of great sponsors and exhibitors who are repeats. Karen will be back again this year, as well as Espresso Tutorials. We have a couple of new ones as well, Global Software. So yeah, I think we have a great group, and I definitely recommend that people visit their tables for more information.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we've covered every question I see in the queue. Are there any other points on these three, Alice? I know you had different things you wanted to cover. Is there anything that we missed that you wanted to mention?
Just one small one, actually. One question that I get a lot is, do we have to sign up for sessions in advance? And people do not have to do that. There may be a couple of exceptions, which I can talk about in a minute. But in general, people, go through the program with a highlighter or, wing it and go to whatever they feel like. It's really up to you. You can attend whatever sessions you like, and you don't have to sign up. The only exceptions to that will be the lab. We will have sign-up times for the lab, as well as a special networking session with Janet Salmon. We'll have a sign-up as well, and those will be available on site.
Great. All right. Well, I think we're coming to the end of our little session here. But if you're watching this on a replay, you might have another question that we haven't covered. So this is the slide that tells you what to do, how to reach Alice and Mark. Mark, do you have a preference for email or phone, or is it whatever people prefer?
Whatever people prefer. I'm usually at my desk most of the day, and I try to respond to emails pretty quickly. So whatever they prefer. So.
Okay, cool. So that looks to be our last slide. I guess, well, actually, this is technically our last slide in Alice's deck. September 21st to 24th, all three of us will be there, so we look forward to seeing some of you there and continuing this conversation. Alice, any final words?
No, that's all. Other than please, feel free to reach out either to Mark with sales questions or myself. If you have some specific questions on the sessions or the speakers, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.